She wore a short sequined dress that shimmered and glittered when she moved, cut just low enough to show off her implants. It rustled like a wind-blown tree when she sat down. Peroxide blonde hair framed a face pretty enough for her age and her profession.
"Hi,"
she said, her voice husky from too many cigarettes.
"In town long?"
He had shaken his head and smiled at her, then taken a swig from the beer and turned his focus back to the football game playing on the flat-screen TV above the rack of liqueurs. She pulled a cigarette from her clutch bag. He picked up a book of matches sitting on the bar, tore out a match, struck it, then lit her cigarette with it. She made sure she leaned low into him so he could see the goods in all their glory. Why do they always smoke? He wondered.
"My name's Jenna,"
she said between puffs, extending her hand. He took it and shook it gently, returning her smile. Her skin was warm and dry to the touch. It sent a thrill of revulsion through him. "Antony," said Byron. "Tony to my friends." He was careful, always, to use an assumed name.
"Well, Tony."
Another goddamn smile.
"Do you need a date?"
And that was when he had made his mistake. For a second, he saw what he was going to do to her, its exquisiteness playing through his mind like a scene from a movie. First, the shock of her realization when he showed her the blade, the tool of the trade, as he preferred to call it. The skittering look of confused terror on her face as she felt the steel tip slip between her ribs and pierce her heart. The muted gush of blood that would be accompanied by his own gush of liquid as he ended her dreadful, sinful life. It was all he could do not to explode right there, so vivid were the images and so intense the need to fulfill God's will and end this creature's corrupt existence. The anticipation brought cold perspiration to his brow as he unconsciously wiped his greasy, sweaty palms on his trousers. That was when his mask had slipped. The whore sensed the change in him, her coy expression quickly disintegrating into a look of wariness, a half-realization of just what she was sitting next to, of how close she was to death. It was subconscious, but it was there.
I need to go freshen up,"
she stuttered, her coquettish demeanor transformed now to one of a cornered alley cat. He could almost see the hair standing up on the back of her neck. Confusion backlit her eyes as she pushed away from the bar and started to head toward the ladies' room. He grabbed her by her forearm, gently but firm enough that she would have to struggle to break his hold. "Why don't I come with you?" he asked suggestively. That's when the full realization had hit her, and she pulled her arm from his grasp.
"Stay away from me, you weirdo,"
she spat back, flecks of spittle landing against his face.
"Stay the fuck away."
Her face was contorted by fear, not by rage, by fear. She backed away and then disappeared into the gloom of the bar. Byron stood up, trying to look as much like a disgruntled boyfriend as he could. "Women," he said with an exaggerated sigh to the bartender, as if this single word could sum up the full complexity and confusion that was the fairer sex. He slapped down a $5 tip on the bar and made his way slowly out of the dive to the parking lot. He was lucky that night. Watched over by the one who had sent him the task, who had taught him this, his most valuable lesson. But for weeks after leaving Las Vegas, he expected to be pulled over every time he saw a highway patrol officer or a deputy, and he had been afraid. It was a first for him. At first, he had not understood what had happened that night. He spent hundreds of miles going over the event in his head, looking at himself through her eyes, analyzing the situation. It had come to him eventually, a simple realization. On some lower level, she had detected his intentions. During that momentary slip, as he had teased himself with the pleasure of his reward for the work that was to come, he must have emanated some kind of psychic energy, which she had picked up on. An aura was how he thought of it. Since then, he was careful to always wear his psychic mask when hunting. He slipped it on each time he stepped out of his cab, not letting any part of the real Byron Portia ooze out between the seams. Byron thought of it as locking himself away in a little room inside his head. It was one of those interrogation rooms you'd see on the old cop shows.